So the last Pokemon game I played and beat in earnest was Pokemon Sword. And that's because I couldn't resist a Pokemon region based on the UK and Scotland. While I was at it, I thought, why not just throw our trio into the Galar region and see what they might do? So I'm going to go over some of the key locations, real-world inspirations, and mythical interpretations of Galar's region. So make sure you like, subscribe, and ring my bell. There's a lot to go over, so I'm going to take a couple of videos to get it done. I decided to split up these discussions among the trio based on what they're most likely to want to explore about the region. After all, Pokemon as a game is partially about exploring the new place and learning the lore of its surroundings. Not just the Pokemon, but also their environments. And Shane's adventurous spirit lends well to that discussion. First, let's mention the Galar region itself. It's based on the UK if you turn it upside down, right? So a lot of locations line up pretty well for the areas they're based on if you were to turn the entire country on its head. But more than that, Galar, the name, comes from Norse mythology. It's one name of the twin dwarves Fjaldir and Galar. Their story is told in the Conversations of Bragi, where they struck down the poet Kvasir and used his blood to make a special mead that will grant wisdom to any who drank it. Obviously, Pokemon can't go that dark because Nintendo are cowards, but I just thought it was interesting to know the name had such a gritty origin. Now let's lighten it back up and discuss this characterization. Ever since he was young, living in the town of Potostoke, on days where he would watch the flock of Wooloo with his mother, Shane would wander about the Galar region and its many locales just waiting to be explored. When he wasn't doing that, he and Martin would go about on which Pokemon they'd catch and train if they could. Shane knew tales told to him by his mother of the hidden places that Pokemon love to hide, and she claimed to know secret ways to calm, even communicate with them. At the age of 10, both Martin and Shane traveled to Wedgehurst to obtain their first Pokemon from the professor living there. Postwick and Wedgehurst are the two first locations players visit in the Galar region at the start of the game, and these two places are based on rural England and Wales. In Welsh and Old English settlements would use the name Wick to mean village or dairy farm, which, to be perfectly frank, you can still have a dairy farm even with mostly sheep. Hurst is a word that means hillock or sandbank, like the coast of a river, and commonly these days is used to be the name of a place. In Wedgehurst is where, like any other Galar trainer, the journey really begins. It's also the first place the two of them meet Madeline, who was also arriving from Hammerlock to select her first partner Pokemon. With the choices laid out between the three of them, it seemed all too obvious that Shane would pick Grookey as his primary. The Pokedex information for Grookey gives it the following characteristics. When it uses its special stick to strike up a beat, the sound waves produced carry revitalizing energy to the plants and flowers in the area. It attacks with rapid beats of its stick. As it strikes with amazing speed, it gets more and more pumped. The stick Grookey holds has grown harder and more flexible after soaking in the energy it emanates from inside Grookey's body. As Grookey strikes everything in sight with its stick, it has more and more fun, and its rhythm becomes livelier. So we have a lively little green monkey who likes music and hitting things with sticks. Shane and Grookey would actually make really great companions then. Shane would play the flute while Grookey keeps rhythm. In their off time, Grookey and Shane could train each other by fighting with sticks, just like Martin and Shane do. Not to mention that monkeys are often associated with trickery and cunning, which fits well with Shane's mischievous nature. The revitalizing waves of Grookey's drumming would also help regrow grass, ensuring the Wooloo and Dubwool would have plenty to eat. And Grookey's appearance seems to be based on squirrel monkeys or macaques, despite being categorized as the chimp Pokemon. Macaques have shown in the wild they'll drum on objects to show social dominance. Its name comes from a combination of groove and monkey, but also rookie. The Japanese name Sarunori combines Saru, monkey, and Nori for excitement or rhythm. Monkeys are not native to the UK, so having a monkey starter Pokemon in a region monkeys don't come from might seem like an odd choice, but monkeys have some surprising stories from the UK. For instance, several monarchs had monkeys as pets, like Henry VII and Catherine of Aragon. In the court of Henry VIII, the court jester used a monkey as a prop, indicating they've also long been linked to entertainment, which is just what Grookey does with its rhythmic beats. Another possible inspiration to Grookey, Thwackey, and the eventual Rillaboom is that of the Gillidu, or the Green Man in Celtic mythology. The Gillidu is a guardian tree spirit covered in grassy fur or hair, thought to camouflage himself among the foliage. The Gillidu is a silent guardian that is kind to children, such as stories where children lost in the woods that are found by the Gillidu are led back safely. However, when confronted with someone who would harm the forest, Gillidu quickly become enraged and will curse or haunt its target until the insult to nature can be repaid, or until the target is eventually driven mad and runs into the forest, eventually becoming another Gillidu themselves. But given that Galar is based not just in the medieval UK culture, but also pop culture through the ages, it's unfair not to mention Grookey's real-world counterparts as well. During the 1970s, musicians from the UK were extremely popular. This was known in the United States as the British Invasion, with bands like The Who or the Beatles. Legendary drummers such as Keith Moon, Ringo Starr, and Phil Collins from Genesis showed the importance of English music as it fits into groupie's design. There was also a band around this time called The Monkees that was created in response to the British invasion. They even borrowed the haircut, which, now that I'm looking at it, kind of looks like Shane's hair, doesn't it? So what's next? After leaving Wedgehurst with his partner Grookey, one of their first Pokémon Shane would add to his roster is Wooloo. While not incredibly powerful, Shane's prior experience with helping raise Wooloo gives him a leg up on being able to understand and utilize their abilities efficiently. For instance, it's said that Wooloo's wool is so thick and soft that it could fall from a cliff without taking any damage. This would come in handy during hikes. Imagine if he lost his footing. He could use Wooloo to catch his fall, and both of them would walk away unscathed. The trio would travel from Wedgehurst through the wild area, passing Lake Millock, a location inspired by many British and Scottish lakes, including places like Loch Ness and Loch Lomond. These two lochs are rich in scenic views, as well as mystical tales, which could be a reference to the Pokémon found there. It's at this lake they find several key Pokémon for their journey, with Shane and Martin finding Tyrogue, and Martin and Madeline capturing Ralts. After this, the trio would consider taking the League Challenge in earnest by first tackling the stadiums that would be best suited to their type advantage. This means the first place Shane would want to go is Hulbury, and use his grass-type partner to take on Nessa's gym. Hulbury, as it stands, is based on the real-world port cities in the UK, places like Liverpool and Dover. During England's Industrial Revolution, these port towns served as gateways to England's trade with the rest of the world. Liverpool was, and still is, one of the most important port cities in England, and was historically a major center for trade, commerce, and shipbuilding. The architecture in Hulbury, with its brick buildings and large open docks, not to mention warehouses, resembles Liverpool's historic Albert Dock. The placement of Hulbury in the Galar map aligns closely with Dover as well. Dover is known for its white cliffs and strong naval presence. The Dover Strait is one of the busiest sea routes, similar to Hulbury, being a major harbor port town for travelers and Pokémon trainers alike. The scenic yet vital location reflects Dover as a coastal landmark, as it was even a key Roman fort during the Middle Ages. These influences showcase a blending of Britain's maritime strength and scenic coastal beauty along with trade significance. Turfield would be the next stop on their list, but not necessarily because of the gym challenge, but because of the geoglyphs. A geoglyph is a large design or motif formed with stones, gravel, or other durable materials. Arguably the most famous geoglyphs are the Nazca lines in Peru. Given that Galar is in the UK, the ones in Turfield are based on several key geoglyphs found, including the Westbury Whitehorse, the Longman of Wilmington, the Cairn Abbas Giant, thought to be a representation of the Dagda, the leader of the Tuatha De Danann and a god of fertility, and the Uffington Whitehorse. All of these chalk carvings are representative either of some kind of deity or giant, and that's why the ones representative in Turfield display giant Pokémon. Aside from the geoglyphs, Turfield also contains scattered assortment of standing stones. These stones represent various stone circles throughout the British Isles, including fairy mountains, as well as Stonehenge. Stonehenge is the prehistoric megalith structure found in Wiltshire, England. It's been part of the landscape for at least 10,000 years. The Pokémon Stonejourner is actually based on Stonehenge. Before the monument was ever constructed, so circa 8000 BCE, it said that Stonehenge played a ritualistic role in crematory burial rites. The first monument wasn't actually erected until 3100 BCE and was made of seafort chalk from the late Cretaceous period, meaning these stones would have once been tread upon by the same massive beasts like Eotyrannus, an early Cretaceous cousin of the Tyrannosaurus rex. Another popular dino in the area, and I promise this is relevant, is the Dorset giant called the Durian Titan. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because when the Durian Titan was discovered, it was a single leg bone that scientists believed for many years actually belonged to a different type of dinosaur called the Cetosaurus. This is similar to the way fossil Pokemon work in Galar, with them being mismatched, freaky versions of each other. I wonder if we'll actually ever see these Pokemon assembled correctly. From Turfield, Shane's next spot of interest would definitely be Glimwood Tangle and Ballonley. But before leaving the area, Shane happened upon a very modest Eevee, and while he was able to capture her, she initially shows some hesitance in getting to know him. This Eevee can see the rivalry between Martin and Shane, but it isn't over Pokemon. He'll have some work to do before he can win her over. Both Glimwood Tangle and the Slumbering Wolf represent the Great Caledonian Forest. The mystical setting of both places makes them a prime example of British, Celtic, and Welsh fairy tale whimsy, with the Slumbering Well being home to the legendary Pokemon Zamazenta and Zacian. it's likely that the Slumbering World is referenced to Tirnanoge itself. Similarly, Glimwood Tangle is a lush, dark forest that is home to fairy-type Pokémon like Impidimp and Hatena. The presence of these Pokémon heightens Glimwood's vibes as a place of mystery and even danger. With the Impidimp line being dark and fairy, they most closely resemble the Celtic Fomorians, a race of dark fays said to be the enemies of the Tuatha Danann. They were everything from bestial giants to cunning trickster goblins and violent redcaps. We see this all through the Impidimp line. With Maugrim and Grimmsnarl, it goes from a little goblin to a trickster to a terrifying forest ogre. Hatena, on the other hand, likely references fairy women, but also the Banshee, a psychic type that eventually evolves into a fairy. Hatena, Hatrim, and Hatterene represent ancient witches who will curse humans for invading their solitude and can absorb the emotions of humans and Pokemon alike with empathic powers. This, along with glowing mushroom Pokemon like Shiinotic to mimic bioluminescent fairy circles, Glimwood Tangle nails the fantasy aesthetic in such a satisfying way that it's actually one of my own personal favorite locations of this region. By the way, what's your favorite Pokemon? Tell me down in the comments. Mine, if you couldn't already guess, is a Fire-type Pokemon. Speaking of Fire types, the last place that Shane and the trio would stop for this leg of the journey is Motostoke. Motostoke represents the heart of Britain's industrial revolution during the 1800s, drawing from the large brick factories and smokestacks of places like Manchester, Birmingham, and Sheffield. Manchester also inspired the novel Hard Times by Charles Dickens. Dickens wrote his 10th novel after visiting Manchester. In the story, it's set in the fictional town of Coketown. Like many of his other stories, from A Christmas Carol to A Tale of Two Cities, Dickens used the story as a way of highlighting the poor working conditions and around factories and mills of the industrial era. He described Coketown as a little world of labor where people went to and from work at the same hours and did the same thing every day. Dickens was highly critical of the impact of industrialism on society, and he described the city with the same gritty Gothic tones that we see over Motostoke as well. Traveling along the Motostoke River, Shane and Madeline would stop to spend time together to discuss their friendship, their Pokemon journey, and what they plan to do next. Madeline's team is primed to take on the Fire-type leader in Motostoke, and it's also here that they both find a pair of Esper, a brother and sister pair. Shane and Madeline both work together to capture the Pokemon, and a shared battle brings them closer than ever before. The Esper, moved by the show of camaraderie, agreed to do their best to help Shane and Madeline come out on top. Esper as a Pokemon is a psychic-type cat with an eerie, emotionless expression. However, this is due to it suppressing its emotions to contain its awesome power. Oh, she is so me for real. Moving on, and at the end of this leg in the Pokemon journey, Shane has defeated 4 gym leaders and has comprised a team of 5 Pokemon. We'll update it with the next installment, as well as reveal what Madeline's team would be. So that's going to do it for me right now. I hope you liked this video and explanations. This is just one aspect of the little rundown of the Galar region. I'll delve more into the lore around the Pokemon next time as we focus on another one of our main trio and what their team would look like, if they were from the Galar region, of course. Art for this week is by Coconut on Fiverr. We've worked with Coconut before plenty of times. They're kind of a mainstay on this channel, so I hope you'll check out their art. Link is in the description. Patreon is our main hub for all things involved with Tales of Atonement, and our patron support helps us produce our episodes faster and with more consistency. But what's in it for you? From there you can find our Tales of Atonement Discord server, art, music, comics, as well as exclusive viewership for upcoming scripts. Supporting us on Patreon is what shows us we're part of a growing community of artists, actors, history buffs, and storytellers that have become fascinated with our characters these past couple of years. This is our passion project we've put our hearts and souls into over 20 years, and your support really helps keep that flame alive. Right now, a big thanks to Pammypoo, Heinrich28, Shadow Fox, Charles Tam, Arya Gamari, Jace Morland, and Lunder Lumen. And of course, everyone who joins us each week. At the very least, I hope you'll like this video, subscribe, and ring my bell if it really resonated with you. And I'll see you again next week. Many a Mickle, Maximako.